You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 458. Welcome, Mr. Jacoby Shaddix of Papa Roach and Chris Daughtry of Daughtry. How are you, sirs?
Good morning.
Well, I always say thank you just for your time, but I need to start off with just thanking you for the message that you guys continue to push, specifically through the new songs, Pieces from Daughtry and Leave a Light On from Papa Roach. And I say that because I'm 40, and even though I've been listening to both of your bands since I was younger, I wish this message was around when I was younger, because when I was 29, my dad took his life.
Oh, man,
And thanks. It's still hard, a decade later. It's
Yeah.
awkward to talk about, but this podcast, among many things, has given me a voice to kind of talk about it, and people like you have given me inspiration to. You shared your trauma on a much larger platform. So while I use this kind of podcast to cope and connect with my listeners, what's the best way? How do you, is it writing these songs, this music, connecting with your fans, hearing your stories? Is that the best way for you guys to cope with your individual trauma?
I mean, honestly, there's many ways. Music is one of them, and gratefully I found it early on and really let a lot of my walls down in my early 20s and just got real vulnerable and found myself in a place of connecting with people through that. And that was a learning curve of me, totally unexpected. And I didn't really understand it. But then I got out on the road and met all these people that were like, oh, your record saved my life. And hearing that story for years, it's like, wow, there is a huge responsibility in this effort, and it's a pizza pie effect though. It's physical fitness, what I'm putting in my body, what kind of stuff what I'm allowing into my mind and my heart and spirit, how am I taking care of myself? And so it's a lot of different things to kind of balance out the chaos and madness and insanity that life can feel like at times.
Yeah, I echo that wholeheartedly. He said it. It's a compounding effect of so many little choices and little things that kind of, equal the big picture. And for me, yes, writing is a form of therapy, and it's cathartic and it's healing, and just getting those feelings and thoughts on paper. Like for me, when I lost my daughter, it was I didn't want to write anything. I didn't want to do anything for a while. I just wanted to hide, and I didn't want to interact with people. And that was just my way of coping at the time, and allowing myself to go through the grieving process, because as you know, there's no rules, and everyone processes it differently at different times. And I tried not to put that pressure on myself, like I should be here by now. No, everyone, goes out about it at a different pace. And there's still days, as you know, that are harder than others. And there are days where you go on with your life as normal. But I think getting that out on paper was like, it was for me, but it then became bigger than me. It became about how, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time. It was just what I needed to do. And now I'm hearing people, oh, you have no idea how this song is impacting me. I'm going through this right now. I just went through this and I needed this. This came when I needed it the most. And I think as an artist, if you hear that once, I mean, man, you've done your job. But it's never in the back of, at least for me, it's never in the back of my mind when I'm writing this, like, I'm going to change someone's life.
Yeah, no,
And
it's not.
that's a heavy like,
You're
responsibility.
trying to change your own life.
Yes,
Really and
exactly.
truly, it's like you're just stuck with these gnarly feelings and this, how do I process, right? And how do I do something that feels meaningful? And so it's definitely part of this processing of.
I went through a phase where I was writing to write, and I
Yep.
was chasing a hit, and I was writing like what I thought was the cool thing to write about. And then something happened in my late 30s that that I don't know if I had this awakening or I just started allowing myself to be vulnerable and be real with myself of what I was actually dealing with,
Yeah.
masking and hiding things. That became my mission. I have to write about this. I have to write about this. And it's not about a hit anymore. It's not about are people going to like this? This is about what I need to get out for myself. And the irony is it started impacting our fans on a much bigger level, and it it's inspiring.
People are craving that authenticity,
Yeah.
and you're bringing it, bro. For
No,
real.
likewise, and have been bringing it since the beginning.
Yeah, it is likewise. I mean,
So
it's true. Even before, as open as you become, Jacoby. I mean, I remember getting Infest in high school, and
Yeah.
just those lyrics hitting me at the time. And I know we don't have a lot of time. I hope we can do this
Yeah,
again.
man, we got to get more long form with you,
Yeah,
man. We
yeah.
could go deep, dude.
Yes, I agree.
No, we definitely can, but I got to end just on this note, because while mental health is the secondary theme of this podcast, I talk about, haven't had a drink for 8 years.
Oh,
Again,
congrats, bro.
thank
Bravo.
you.
That's what's up.
You know,
Amazing.
I'm disabled. I talk about because I go to concerts in a wheelchair, all this stuff. But the main theme, if you haven't noticed by the podcast name, is Appetite for Distortion. Like in the
A
background.
little bit of a Guns N' Roses fan.
He's a rocker, baby. Let's go.
A
I
little
almost
bit.
wore my gun shirt today, man.
So if real quick, because I know you both got what I call 6 degrees of GNR bacon, slash playing on your first record, Chris.
Mm.
And if you have any fond memories, Jacoby, of touring with GNR back in '06.
Oh yeah, we did a tour with Guns N' Roses, and we were so intimidated by this opportunity. We knew that we're like, the fans, they just want to see GNR.
So
And
both of our situations happened in '06.
oh, you
That's
toured with him
yeah.
as well?
He played on my record in '06.
Okay,
And you
got
toured
it.
with him.
That's dope,
Yeah.
dude. Another connect, bro. So we go out on this tour and we rock the crowds. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Axel comes back. He's like, guys, this is like, you're killing it. Bravo, kudos to you guys. And
That's awesome.
that was cool. And then we played Puerto Rico and just about killed it because I did some stuff in Spanish, and then the crowd went crazy. And yeah, that was a great tour, man. Loved it. And they're just so iconic, and it's just cool to see the band back together.
Yeah.
A bunch of the original members out there doing it, and we just saw them just recently in Europe, shared the stage with them again, and so big fans of Guns N' Roses. Loves
Yeah.
those cats.
Right on. And Daughtry, that feeling
Yeah.
of Slash playing in their first
Dude,
record.
he pulls up in his Aston Martin, and I'm like, "Can I help you with your guitar, Mr. Slash?"
Yeah.
And I remember him going in. I don't even think he had heard the song yet, and he was just gonna go in there and start ripping, and I'm like, "You mind if I come in here and watch you do your thing?" He goes, "Dude, it's your album."
Yeah.
I was like,
You
fair,
never
fair.
know with people,
like this is like the legend, my favorite guitar player of all time, walking in to play on my record. So I just wanted, I didn't want to encroach on his space, but man, he was such a pro, and he was just the coolest. I'm sitting out there smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore, but I was out there smoking these cigarettes from like France that were like the strongest thing you could ever put in your mouth.
Oh, you would love this cigarette.
But it was such it's a moment that I'll never forget. Yeah.
And well, this conversation is a moment I'll never forget. And again, I hope we get to do this again, longer form. Chris,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm so sorry for your loss. I mean,
Likewise. Thank you, sir.
thank you, and Jacoby, for everything you've been through. Just thank you for being so brave and talking things through. You deserve as we're recording this tonight, you're getting the Lifesavers Award, the gala from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and Daughtry is presenting you with the award. Well deserved. Thank you, guys. Hope to do this again soon.
Thanks for having us, man. I
Hey,
appreciate
man,
it.
great chatting with you,
Yeah.
Brendan.
Guys, take care. Another short interview that I wish was longer, especially this one. As Jacoby said, we could do a deep dive on mental health. I mean, I don't I don't need too much of a push to talk about that stuff. Although, I mean, that's why I took a break from my therapist. I just got tired of living in it, talking about it, and just trying to learn how to live in the moment and finally enjoy my life. which I probably could say honestly, this is the best time of my life because I have a healthy baby boy. Never thought that would happen. I'm married to a woman who loves me. Never thought that would happen. And I have this podcast, which sounds so silly, but I have a radio career that was kind of unfulfilling and knocked me down a lot. It's tough business and everyone has their ups and downs. I'm lucky to even have a job in radio the way the industry is going, but the creative itch that I kept trying to scratch and I would at different points in my career just kept getting, I don't know, pushed aside. It's hard to carve your own niche. Um, and the fact that I've been able to do this for nearly 8 years, well, actually not nearly, over 8 years. It was recently the 8th year anniversary of this podcast, if you can believe it. It came up in my Facebook memories. I ain't shared on social media because I'm weird. Sometimes I like, hearing praise and and it's just a nice comment. I'm not fishing for it, but I need it just to kind of push me along and being like I'm doing a good thing, but not this year. I mean, I'll talk about it now, obviously, um, because it's 8 years ago. I'm in the same jobs that I've had, but the fact that I've been able to not just take this and make it a Guns N' Roses conversation I've been having for 8 years, but the the caliber of interviews that I've been able to get is something that was not available to me very rarely as an on-air DJ. I have a handful of interviews that were just on FM. Bumblefoot, ironically, Nikki Sixx, JG French, who has been on the podcast. I remember once in studio, I had the wrestler Jeff Jarrett when I was up in Poughkeepsie. But this podcast being my doing, this is me. Of course, I started this with Ian, and now I'm getting a lot of help behind the scenes from G Hall from Scotland, who does all my graphics and helped me with the new website and everything. So it's still a team, but it's basically me. And I love talking to people like Jacoby and Daughtry because it reminds me. I kind of see myself in them a little bit without the success and everything, and why I love Axel so much. It's the same thing. This mic goes on. Someone once said it's kind of like Weekend at Bernie's. You kind of snap into it, and you become, I'm Brando here. But Brando Weissler, I mean, while I'm the same person, I'm much more shy and quiet, reserved. I don't I don't like holding a conversation like this. This was a huge challenge for me once Scotto left back in episode 39 to be able to have the confidence that whatever I'm saying makes sense, that I'm not just lost in my brain. Who am I? I have no one else to bounce off of, even though I have you in mind that I'm talking to, that's what they teach you in radio. You got to talk to one singular person, even though you have several listening to you. But it's doing this podcast has helped my confidence and who I am tremendously. It started out it's just as like a recommendation for my therapist to get a hobby, do something outside of work, find some other purpose, and this just was a happy accident, which I've said several times, was such a silly idea by Ian Scott, like my former co-host, still current friend. Just like I'm going to talk about Guns N' Roses for an hour for how long? I mean, 8 years later. But the reason why it's been able to last 8 years, because it's not just about, well, at the beginning it was the reunion and the excitement, and here we are 8 years later with 4 air quote new songs. And in a new interview with Eddie Trunk, Slash saying that Guns N' Roses will tour next year and will hopefully get into the studio. hopefully, and trying, because Slash said that recently too, that they're trying to get into the studio. Those words have become the new soon. But I suppose that's good news because I want to take my son, I want to take baby Brownstone, Harrison Rex, to see Guns N' Roses. That's definitely a dream of mine. So hopefully that should come to fruition next year. But I'm in a good place now, but that does not mean I'm good. And I think that's why I want to talk to you a little bit after talking with Daughtry and Jacoby some of our time, because this conversation needs a little bit more time to breathe. And hopefully I do get them on again, especially Jacoby, because I am uh he's somebody that I can, it's crazy that I just remember in Fest, I have the CD listening to Papa Roach and really getting into rock and roll, hard rock. I know some people will laugh, but rap rock was all the rage. I wasn't a huge rap rock person, but something about Papa Roach and his lyrics hit me. Same thing with Axl. There's something different, and it's the guy, it's the person writing. I know it's not with GNR, it's Axl, it's Slash, it's all of them, but all of them have their tale of mental health. I mean, look at Izzy. The guy gave up pretty much a career to focus on his well-being. I mean, if that's not admirable, I don't know what is. You look at Duff and Slash, who both could be dead from drugs and alcohol, and both could be looked at now as role models, 100% workaholics rather than alcoholics, and being family men. They're an inspiration, and so is, of course, Axl. And we all would like for him to be a little bit more vocal, and we can only hope. I mean, at least I do, with the new website and Axl's own website and his YouTube channel, that maybe this is a teaser for something solo or a book. I mean, the guy has so much to say. And unlike the 90s where he was saying everything on stage, I mean, he had his little moments of tweeting, but he really is kind of almost radio silent um, socially. Almost since the reunion, really, what, a couple interviews with the China Exchange and the Brazilian TV show, I believe, with Duff. Nothing with Slash. Of course, did talking about politics on X for a bit, but that's about it. But I would be a hypocrite if I said, Axl, please talk about mental health. You owe it to us. He doesn't owe us anything. He doesn't owe us new music. Excuse me. He's just a dude. It reminds me of when I actually did get to interview Bumblefoot for my first radio interview ever for Pixie 103 in Cape Cod. And this was a year before Chinese came out, so 2007. And I was still, you could tell, I always get a little starstruck, or just, oh my, I can't believe I'm in this position talking to somebody whose music I listen to. But it was worse back then. I said, like, what was it like when you first met Axl Rose? I remember this part. I wish I had the whole interview. It was like a 45-minute interview. I wish I had the whole thing, but that's so many years and computers ago that it's long gone. And his answer has stuck with me. Like, he's just human. He's just a guy, flesh and blood. We're all flesh and blood. And that's something important when you look at people like Jacoby and Daughtry and the mental health conversations I've had with, especially Dave Navarro, which sticks out to me. And obviously previously mentioned Slash and Duff, because some people just easily cast, oh, what do they have to be depressed about? What are they're rich. They don't know what real people problems are. Look, we're all real people. None of us are cyborgs or aliens that I'm aware of. So it's just a different path everyone takes. But depression doesn't care about your path. It doesn't matter what you may or may not achieve or how much money you have or don't have. Depression doesn't care, because we all have the same kind of, brain. We're all made from the same parts. The brain is like any other body part where it can malfunction and needs to be treated. And I'm very grateful, since my dad took his life 11 years ago, that the conversation has changed drastically. I've noticed a change because, especially since when Robin Williams passed, which was a year after my dad, that's when I feel like the world woke up. Like, whoa, if Robin Williams could do this, something serious. And of course, after it got Anthony Bourdain, somebody else, you're like, oh, he had everything. Why? Why would he do this? I thought that about my dad. Why? He's a dentist. He's got 4 kids. He's married. Like, what's wrong? Well, if it's not treated properly and you don't have the right environment around you, depression could take over. It could absolutely take over. And if it's something that I don't know, never really goes away. It never goes away because even now when things are good for me, it rears its ugly head. Always. Like an interview, I'll finish an episode and be like, that wasn't that good. I should have asked this. Oh, I screwed that up. I didn't do enough research on that. And I'll feel bad about it until I hear from you. And of course, you get a couple of stray jerks who just try to put you down, but that's just unfortunately, that's what life is, what the human race is. A couple comments I do want to read because I was having a rough day the other day where, I mean, I love every second I spend with my son, but sometimes it's just me and him for hours and hours on end, and which is great. But when you're handicapped like me, that's very taxing because I've said this at times over the course of this podcast, these 8 years. But if you're not familiar, I have demyelinating peripheral neuropathy, which in layman's terms means I have something missing in my nerves, so the message doesn't fully get there from the brain, which causes significant weakness and balance issues. And it's not just primarily my legs, which it is primarily my legs, but it's all over. That's why if you ever see like my hands look a little weird or shaking, it's in my hands, it's everywhere. But predominantly my legs. So when I go around, I wear leg braces, I use a cane. But recently I've been using a wheelchair when it's a long trip or like London, or if it's a concert, which I started doing when I saw Buckethead last year. And I'm going to do when I see Slash at Pier 17 in New York City for the Blues, the Serpent Festival I'm going to do. And that's a whole other thing to take on. And, it's just little comments that good and bad can really affect somebody who battles from depression. You never know what's going on. So just like I'll just start with the bad at first, because there was somebody who commented on, because I didn't really go into in depth actually with my UK trip, which I kind of it'll paint a broader picture for you. Because this person saw me in a wheelchair outside of Abbey Road Studios and I posted, and it was a big deal for me to show myself in a wheelchair, saying, I don't think, I'm sorry if you may hate me for saying this, but I don't think you respect people in wheelchairs. And this was because I commented because I went inside the gate for Abbey Road Studios to take a better picture with my wife and son. And it wasn't like the gate was open. Like somebody recording just left. So we just wanted to go in like 5 yards just to have a picture that wasn't covered by a gate and trees. So did this person think I was faking it? It's like, just like, am I not handicapped enough for you? Because it's like they're not going to yell at a person in a wheelchair and a baby. And I had said that. So what did this person think? And that just really bothered me. Like, here I am putting myself, visible in a wheelchair, not just talking about it. Like, this is just a different look for me. And this person says shit. And unfortunately, when you're depressed, you focused on those things. However, I need to realize that those are really in the minority. Really are. I wouldn't be doing this for 8 years if I got a ton of hate. I don't understand those social personalities that live to troll or to cause a stir. And I don't want hate comments. That's why I'm not big on the hot takes. I understand that if I don't agree with your opinion, I'll agree to disagree. It's just not my style. The world has enough issues. I don't want to be in another source of divisiveness. So this was a comment from somebody I didn't expect, and I don't even know who this is. I'll just say it's from Addict Estranged 1978 on Twitter X. And here's how my brain goes. I thought at the beginning this was going to be a bad comment, but you see, it was the opposite. You'll see it was the opposite. Brando, you are a public person for some time now. Everyone in the biz, rock music, should know you by now and recognize your tremendous value. We, the GNR fans, are thanking you for the wonderful gift you produced for us, Appetite for Distortion podcast. That that really made my day, my night. It was just a long day, baby brownstone. I'm physically exhausted. Um, sometimes I think like, oh, I'm not posting a lot today, and I'm like, I'm behind. I'm not scheduling interviews, and all this stuff is going on in my head. Where, which is bad. I should be just like, which I am focused on my son, but those thoughts creep in. And just to read that after a long day, unsolicited, made me feel good. And I'll also say, this was a DM, so I won't say who it was from. Just wanted to let you know, I think you do great work. Happy I found your account years ago. Also, you've gotten a lot better, not a bit better, a lot better as an interviewer. It's noticeable. Keep it up, man. You're awesome. Thank you. Because those are the things I focus on. Look, as if you cannot like me, maybe you don't like my New York accent, you don't think I'm funny. Maybe I don't do as much Guns N' Roses stuff when I do interviews because sometimes it's just a question or not. These are things like I would accept criticism for, but sometimes, you know, uh, people need to see the whole context of what an interview entails. I got something recently, it was an interview I did like over a year ago or so with Lee Ving from Fear. And if you remember that one, well, that was a tough one. This person wrote just flat out, "You're a bad interviewer." So I had to reply, and they kind of understood that his age, he had a bad day. And his rep told me that. He didn't remember things. He couldn't really go into detail, like asking him about Clue and asking him in the early days, so his friendship with Duff and Slash. It was just very, I hate to say it, it was like talking to like my grandpa. And he was the nicest guy in the world. I remember it took us like 20 minutes to set up Zoom. And, but he was kind, and I didn't want to, I'm like, I have this time with Lee Ving. I'm going to make the most of it. But that one comment, like if I wasn't in a better mindset right now, that could cause me to spiral. So I think about, if people think that I'm successful, I'm doing well with this podcast, I'm so low level. These are comments that can still affect the famous, the rich and famous that are above and beyond. So, I mean, I wouldn't blame Daughtry or Jacoby for not even looking at social media because I don't know if it was always like this, probably, but social media just makes it obvious that we're so into tearing people down. You don't have to be a fan of somebody. You might not like them, just don't say anything. And I am the first to admit, I used to be so guilty of this stuff. I really did. But in the early days of social media, where you're thinking like quick one-liners on your away message, or uh, the early days of Facebook, before when it was just your friends, just trying to get a quick laugh, and having grown up on The Simpsons and South Park, and you just Opie and Anthony, you just think sometimes mean is funny. Sometimes if it could be clever and just kind of like you give an old ribbing, but there are times it's just unnecessary and nasty. Uh, and it's like what it's just you can't believe that there are people out there that are like this. But much like what Bernard Fowler said during our interview, I'm gonna keep assholes out of my life, whether it's in my day-to-day life, which is very easy for me now since I work from home, or online. Like I'm done. Sometimes I like trolling back the trolls who think they're clever because I'm always more clever than they are. Because come on, again, if you're that kind of person who trolls, you're just not that bright. But it's it's just recalibrating how you interact with other people, I think is important. And that's a lesson that I've learned, especially since when my dad passed, because of how successful he was and had everything going for him, but he also let the little things just take him down. And they would become big things. And that's something I want to get across in this little post-interview conversation. If you're going through the same stuff, because I'm very happy that the conversation has changed. Excuse me. That Duff and Slash are so open, especially Duff. You know, the Mental Health Awareness Month, May. He's spoken about it. Jacoby, obviously, and Daughtry right now. But it teaches you that it's not just from them. You got to do it at your level. And I'm lucky I have a little platform that I will get messages that say, thank you for talking about this. Thank you for talking about your sobriety from alcohol. It's inspired me. It's not like I'm setting out to inspire anybody. I'm just trying to, like, this is my therapy in a way. You know, I'm in a way talking to my therapists right now, all of you, and vice versa. You should talk back to me if you have an issue, which some of you do, which means a lot. This is how we change things. So as much as I may get frustrated about Guns N' Roses and no new music, at the end of the day, it doesn't ruin my day. It can get annoying and be like, oh, they're trying to get a new album. They're hopefully this and that. I'm not putting all my eggs in that emotional basket. I want it to happen, obviously, as a fan, but I've taken a step back and being like, okay, is this really gonna anger me? So that's why I never do really do hot takes or go off on anything really GNR related. I can have an opinion, but it doesn't really affect me that much. But when you see again talking about, which I have before, the all the interviews that Slash is doing right now and me being turned down by his radio rep, the same. I mean, I don't even know if Slash even probably doesn't even know about it. But that's something that affected me mentally, being like, is this ever going to happen? And I never set this podcast up to ever accomplish. I didn't know what I would accomplish, but just knowing that these opportunities are out there, it's like, okay, is something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? I can't think that way. Look at all the things that we're doing right here. And that's what we should focus on. So if you're struggling, please feel free to reach out to me. I would suggest, reaching out to a friend, a family member, just someone who will listen. I know therapy isn't for everybody, but I really do recommend it because I needed somebody who wasn't a friend or a family member. I needed somebody who was very clinical, who could tell me, because it's not just, okay, I'm sad. These things aren't wrong. They're chemical, man. There are chemical things that could be wrong with you. And that being said, I do believe also we are over medicated. People do get over medicated. So that's why you need to have the right therapist who cares about you, who doesn't just see you as, you're a ticket on a deli counter, just in and out. No, they should care about you and work with you um, regarding how to proceed in your therapy if you suffered trauma. And I was in therapy before my dad took his life. So just thank God or the flying spaghetti monster in the sky that I was in therapy when this happened already. Because I after it happened, I didn't talk to my good friends for 2 years. My whole close-knit group of friends. I was a total hermit. Total hermit. I just wanted to kind of implode and just vanish. And this podcast is one of the things that helped bring me out. Hearing your voices from literally around the world, people who don't speak English as their first language, bonding with Guns N' Roses or talking about interviews that I've done or getting questions from you to ask and involving you. This has been part of my therapy unexpectedly. So whatever you need to do, because we, the Guns N' Roses fan, we're a bit we're built a little bit different, I think, because if you gravitated towards this band and these lyrics, I think you're in tune with who you are a little bit and just what battles you have to go through because that's what this band was. They fought for Appetite for Destruction. That was why it was so successful. This was a real thing. These are real problems these guys are going through. And then Use Your Illusion speaks for itself. The just the whole whether it's the tour, the Axel shenanigans, if you want to call it for lack of a better word. I mean, this is just a band that puts you through the test as a fan. So you gotta we put through the ringer, get in the ringer. We've been there. But the fact that we're all still fans all these years later and that we can bond over our favorite songs, favorite albums, on this day this concert happened. Oh, I was there. I was there. Incredible. Just incredible the 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 bond and the friendships that we've been able to form through this podcast. So I suggest if you're looking for something, if you're struggling right now, maybe you want to start your own podcast. I've had people reach out to me being like, okay, what do I do? And it doesn't have to become anything. It can just be talking with your friends. But this is an outlet. This is good. And I'm convinced, I'm sure many would agree, it's no hot take, but that's what Slash is doing. He is nonstop because he's an addict. So now he's addicted to rock and roll. I mean, he's always addicted to rock and roll and the guitar, but that's all it is now. And same thing with Duff. They went from alcoholics to workaholics. They went from hide your girlfriends, from these guys to they are role models. They are family men role models. And that's something else that makes me just a huge fan of this band. Not just the music, but the men. But the people who make it up, whether it's the classic lineup, whether it's different versions. Like it's just been interesting. All the cast of characters in this band has just been quite. It's just been fun just to talk about and just to see. Because again, if you know me, I became a fan of this band hardcore after they already had broken up. So to talk to those of you who have been there since the late '80s, or those of you who became fans since you're younger, Chinese Democracy, different generations, we're all coming together here. So that's why we meet here in Appetite for Distortion. No matter where you are, no matter what you speak, no matter what you believe in politically, we're here to talk about, and because we have our bond of Guns N' Roses and our secondary theme of mental health that I'm glad that so many of you have supported me on to doing, because this isn't the Brando show. This is still Appetite for Distortion. Guns N' Roses centric, Guns N' Roses themed podcast. 6 degrees of GNR bacon, looking at life through guns and rose-colored glasses. A bar mitzvah party of a broadcast. I haven't said these things in a while, but I'm the guy having these conversations, doing these interviews, and we're gonna go deeper. We go deeper here. It's like the deep dive. It's just like Jacoby said. And that's what Guns N' Roses requires. They're not just on the surface band. It's not just what's on the surface. You got to keep going down and down and down into the core. It's never what it seems. Right? That's kind of life. It's never what it seems. So that's it. I can keep going on and on and on. But I just wanted to have a little conversation with you after this interview. Since it was a short interview, let's make it a full one. Let me be a little bit more transparent about my life. Because their lives are on display. You know what Jacoby has been through. I don't even want to talk about it. You can Google it if you want. The loss of Daughtry's daughter, which now that I have a son, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how you continue through life like that. But it shows whether you're Jacoby, whether you're Daughtry, whether you're me. I went on the air 5 days after my dad took his life because I knew If I didn't go back, if I waited any longer, I was never going back. I was never going to go back because he was my biggest radio fan. He listened wherever I was starting in college. He was tuned in. And I know he would be so proud of this podcast, what I've been able to do. But it's, we all lose people in a variety of ways, and we all have trauma and pain, and it's what we do with it. You're gonna have those bad times where you're like, oh, okay, I can't get through this, but just do what you can to kind of reach up or latch on or whatever phrase you want to use, knowing that it can get better. It can if you want it to. I don't know when it's gonna happen. It's like a Guns N' Roses album. I don't know when, soon. It took me a few years, a couple years after my dad, just to be a human again. But just you gotta just keep pushing forward, whether it be one day at a time, find something or someone to motivate you, to give you a reason to get out of bed. And then you fake it until you make it, even if you don't feel good. Just say, okay, take a shower, watch TV, go out, eat a nice meal, just something positive for you that day. And maybe that's all it is. And hopefully down the line, things will just get even better. Because I told you, I'm like, no one's going to want to marry me. No one's going to want to have a kid with me. And here I am with 2 cats. Also, never thought I'd be living with cats. I mean, every night it was last night, I have my son, because he sleeps in bed with us, in between us. I have my cat Blackie on my head. He sleeps on my pillow above me. And my other cat, GB, on the ottoman next to the bed, which we have an ottoman next to the bed. So Blackie, because my cats are older, 17 and 18. GB 17, Blackie's 18. Blackie needs something lower to jump onto to get into bed. So, and GB was on that last night. So I'm like, I'm surrounded. Of course, my wife is there. I'm like, look at where I am right now. And I'll look back at my Facebook memories and be like, whoa, 8 years ago, I was here. 10 years ago, I was there. So that's what you got to, life goes fast, man. It can go fast. Things, as bad as things can get, they can get better real quick. So anyway, all that being said, that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. Thanks for listening. Thanks for just being awesome. Again, there's a few stray jerks here and there on social media, but by and large, wow, every day I look forward to reading your comments on interviews or just posts, or you guys sending. I'm waking up to Guns N' Roses news that you guys are sending me, those in other parts of the world. So you're all my producers. So just thank you. Thank you. So let me just end by saying, please go to our new website, afdpod.com. Check it out. That's where you can get, of course, all the interviews in video or audio. You can read some articles there that I've written, including I wrote a review for Slash's Orgy of the Damned, which I like. So I gave like kind of a brief rundown of each track. Nothing crazy, but just wanted to get it out there. So you can read my review of Slash's Orgy of the Damned on afdpod.com. And you can also make donations if you feel so inclined. Patreon, PayPal, we got merch there. So, all the money is either going to go back into the podcast or goes directly to them. The baby brown, the baby brownstone. I want to, I would combine the two if I ever get enough. I want to get a second camera that's in front of me, but face the other way, that faces his play area, which is right behind me, and kind of have like a baby brownstone cam. That's like a dream of mine. So if you feeling so inclined to donate, nothing, I have like one-off donations as $3. So if you feel like it, great. If not, Just thanks for listening. So who will be the next guest? When will you hear it? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it. I don't know if soon is the word.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.